So yeah, the first thing we'll actually jump into here is some RTX benchmarks and also a little bit of more talk about it. But we didn't actually collect a huge pile of benchmarks, and we don't have the cards, so we didn't benchmark them ourselves. So courtesy to Tech here, I'm pulling this from their site. They do great reviews. They're one of the best in the industry, in my opinion. I love the content they do, and so I'm going to be using their benchmark results to tell you guys exactly how this went. Kind of interesting, kind of disappointing, actually. It's not as disappointing as I maybe expected it to be, but it's definitely not something that I'm super excited about. I'm not going to be buying one at least anytime soon. So first I'll jump into some benchmarks, and then we can talk opinions a little more, I suppose. Okay, so to jump into Battlefield 1 RTX benchmarks here, again, courtesy of Tech. They got, with the 2080 Ti on Battlefield 1, ultra quality, 4K, 101.8 FPS, which is pretty solid. Now, again, it's the Founders Edition unit, which means other units could fluctuate a little bit. And then the 2080 Founders Edition got 78.9, and then the 1080 Ti Founders Edition got 74.4, and the RX Vega 64 got 59 FPS, all in the same 4K ultra quality. Now, something I really wanted to note here before continuing with the rest of the benchmarks, something that people should hopefully understand, is comparing Founders Edition to Founders Edition is very biased in this situation, because we went from a blower card to a dual axial fan. I feel like that's a buzzword, even though it is correct. Dual axial fan cooling system with the vapor chamber and everything on the new Founders Edition. So it's kind of a bias there, whereas realistically, we should be taking things like the 1080 Ti Strix maybe, or something along those lines, and comparing that with the Founders Edition of the 2080 and 2080
I just think
Ti.
it'll be more interesting to see comparisons of like Strix to Strix across generation. The same
That too,
card with the same type of cooler.
That too, because
That's
those
the most
oftentimes
important,
don't change. So that'd be great to see, yeah, because realistically, I mean, the Founders Edition cooler is really good, and the old Founders Edition blower cooler is only good for certain applications. So it's a little bit of a bias here, where it's like, okay, sure, the 1080 Ti got 74.4 FPS, whereas the 2080 got 78.9, but it's like, would a better cooler, along with GPU boost 3 it was at the time, I think, push the 1080 Ti up closer?
Probably.
And the fact is it would, yeah, like most likely. So a little bit, didn't really like that there. Frame times are looking pretty solid, though. Very consistent across the board with the 20 series, so not that we expected any different from NVIDIA, but they look good. I'll jump over to Far Cry 5 here. We'll just go over a few different ones just so you guys get a good idea of what they look like. So 4K ultra quality again on Far Cry 5. The 2080 Ti Founders Edition, 73 FPS. 2080 Founders Edition was 57, and the 1080 Ti Founders Edition was 54 FPS. So again, the 2080 and the 1080 Ti are neck and neck, to the point that realistically, because the 2080 is actually... Realistically, it's going to be about $100 more than the 1080 Ti was, mostly across the board. There might be some where it's closer to a $50 price increase, because, of course, the Founders Edition is more expensive, but I think all the add-in boards are going to match that anyway. Yeah. That's kind of what we're seeing. So you're paying more money for what is essentially the same performance with slightly better efficiency.
Yeah. So unless DLSS does manage to make... a bit of a difference, enough to make up that $50.
Yeah. And of course, the whole thing with DLSS that kind of frustrated me was the way it was presented was that, oh, it's this really special thing that makes your GPU perform better. But something I think I emphasized in when we filmed last time was DLSS is a form of anti-aliasing, right? And so it's not like DLSS is increasing your performance over no AA. It's increasing your performance over other kinds of AA. Yeah. And that's where it gets to be like, okay, I mean, AA does make a pretty significant difference in visual quality, but, you know, it's not like a performance increase in that same sense, right?
It kind of is, though, because, I mean, if you're comparing it with AA, and if you're running everything on max settings, presumably that includes AA. And so if you can get comparable quality while getting more frames per second,
I guess that is, you've got a performance boost. That's true.
It's just in a matter of the specific settings. That's why, like, DLSS is going to matter how well it works, because it's very specifically like application based. It's very specifically
that's true.
It's not going to be uniform across the board. One consistent just like 10% gain or something weird like that. Yeah.
And so I guess it also, of course, depends on how many games really support it, too.
Yeah,
which is another factor to play in.
Definitely has a much larger support list so
far
than
ray tracing. Yeah, than RTX, I should say. Yeah. Yeah, so definitely, I mean, it's exciting, but for now, the recommendation, I tend to stick to saying get a 1080 Ti. Because you're going to be oftentimes getting them for $550 to $600, which is a really, really, really good price for a 1080 Ti, used or new. That's a great price. And they're beasts. They perform well. And I I mean, there are reports of people. There's 2080 Ti SLI benchmarks out there, which the scaling looks about the same per game as it did with the 10 series. There's no extra work done there. It's the same optimization level. But in those titles, I mean, it was obviously a significant performance boost. And we're seeing frame rates so high at like 4K that you can't even use it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's great. Like, too many frames is good in a lot of ways. But at the same time, like, dual 1080 Ti's will do just fine in that case. You know, you're going to be slightly lower, but you're saving a ton of money because you're getting still better than 2080 Ti performance for virtually the same price, $1,200 versus two $600 1080 Ti's.
Yeah.
Now, jumping into some Masters of the Singularity, just to give you guys a little bit more of an idea here. So we've got the 2080 Ti Founders Edition hit 90.3, and this is at 4K extreme quality. The 1080 Ti Founders Edition came out at 75.7, and the 2080 Founders Edition came out at 74.3. So this is something that actually scares me, is we're actually seeing the 1080 Ti, in some cases, the Founders Edition 1080 Ti actually beat out the Founders Edition 2080.
I'm not surprised.
And I mean, I wouldn't say surprising, but disappointing in a way, right? Where it's like, okay, at that point, you're paying the extra money for a 2080 to potentially have decent ray tracing performance. Who knows?
Which is why you should wait. If you're
exactly, you should wait. Reason. Yeah, I mean, unless you need a card now, then just buy a 1080 Ti. You're saving money. You're getting great performance. It's not like you're losing out on the end of the world. I'm sorry. By the time the next time you want to buy a graphics card comes around, we'll know if ray tracing really takes off or not, right? But right now, you can't know, even with the few titles that will be getting it. Will everything get it? Is it going to be another Hairworks? Who knows? Is it going to be a thing where RTX fades off, but ray tracing becomes popularized because maybe AMD does really, really good with things like DirectX ray tracing and stuff?
But this is using DirectX ray tracing.
It is through RTX, right. But I guess what I mean is like if AMD becomes really good at this as well, and it becomes the standard, then at that point, I mean, I guess you're paying an early adopter fee.
Yeah.
I guess is what it all comes down to.
Yeah.
But still, I don't know. I'm a little disappointed with the 2080's performance, and it's not horrible, but it's...
I didn't expect the non-ray tracing stuff to be all that much of an increase.
I didn't either, but I was hoping I was wrong. You know what I mean? I mean, because like I would expect the 2080 to outperform the 1080 Ti by like 10%. That'd be great, right?
It'd be great.
Instead, we're not seeing anything like that, and we're seeing a price increase. And we're seeing availability problems already.
But also, part of me still wonders and kind of expects us to see a potential price drop as soon as the
10 series stock clears out. That could be.
There was those reports that the price of the 20 series changed last minute. Some people thought that was going to mean it changed down from what we were expecting.
But maybe it went up.
But since we saw the current pricing rumors as the last rumors, and originally it was a lower price, I think that because of the stock of it, NVIDIA wanted to lessen the sales of this, wanted to push people to buy.
That could be, because if they do actually have extra stock, which is rumored but kind of confirmed, then you would expect them to want to get rid of it. So they could price it that way, and then we see big price drops, which also looks good on their part. So that could be a great thing, although realistically, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the 2080 Ti should still be priced lower regardless of that, because that's the next level. So people that are looking to buy a 1080 Ti, if say the 2080 Ti was $900, a lot of the people that were looking for that kind of money to spend on a graphics card aren't going to be like, oh, I'm going to get the 1080 Ti instead to save some bucks. They're going to go with the 2080 Ti because it's a significant improvement, right? So I don't know. I get what you're saying. I guess I was hoping for more. I hope that ray tracing really does take off. I hope that DLSS is as good as NVIDIA promises. I always take them with a grain of salt. You know, Hairworks, Hairworks was cool and all, but you did it to stifle performance on AMD cards. Like, that's pretty much been proven. TressFX is better and works better on both cards than Hairworks. Hairworks works worse on NVIDIA cards than TressFX does on NVIDIA cards. But it works even worse on AMD cards versus NVIDIA cards. So it causes damage. Games like Witcher really, really, really don't like to have Hairworks on if you're running an AMD card. So he just found out 25 games for DLSS is the support we have so far.
Including big ones like PUBG, the new Darksiders game that's coming out, Ark. We have a few. So it's
Tomb Raider, all the fun stuff.
It's starting to get support.
One thing I will say too, though, regarding DLSS and stuff, is we're up to the performance levels of, say, like a 1080 Ti or dual 1080 Ti's, where you can crank AA all the way up and it doesn't care. Like, that's something that I do in games. I crank AA all the way up in every game I play. Every game at least that supports SLI. 1080 Ti's, SLI, and it's fine. I'm getting like 130 frames per second. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Now, of course, the performance improvement's nice, but I'm just saying it's less significant for the 2080 Ti than it could be for the 2080 and the 2070 in these cases.
But like if DLSS could be the difference between with the 2080 between 4K with some games at like 55 to 57 and pushing it to consistent above 60.
Yeah. Although we have seen with the 2080 Ti, it is the first card basically ever that we can actually, that I'm comfortable saying this is the first true 4K gaming card.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable saying that. I wasn't really comfortable saying that with the 1080 Ti or even the Titan XP. This one here, you crank the settings to max, assuming you're not using some stupid resolution scaling or something, and you're getting 4K 60 plus.
Yeah.
Every single time. Grand Theft Auto 5, another benchmark to pull up from Anintech here before we jump into some other stuff. RTX 2080 Ti Founders Edition hit 64.9 FPS. The 1080 Ti Founders Edition, again ahead of the 2080 Founders Edition, hit 51.6 FPS, and the 2080 Founders Edition was 47.7, and then Vega 64 is down in the 31.1 range. I don't know. Vega 64 is good on some games. It's really good on some games, but yeah, it's a little bit of a disappointment. I almost bought 2 of those instead of my 1080 Ti's, which would have been okay. I would have been happy with them still, because I have a FreeSync panel, right? It would have been, it's not like I would have complained about, let's see, scale this up because I'm still at lower resolution than 4K. Let's say 45 FPS, double that. Okay, I'm not going to complain about 90 frames per second maxed out of GTA, right? But still. So that's pretty much it in terms of benchmarks. Definitely, I would say before buying a card, you should probably wait to see what happens in regards to ray tracing and DLSS, unless you're really just wanting the best possible performance. I have a friend that I'm doing a build for. His budget's like $2,500. We can probably squeeze a 2080 Ti into there, assuming we can actually get our hands on one. Which, if we do, by the way, he's agreed that if I do all the building and work for him for free, I get to review the 2080 Ti. So we will have some performance numbers for you guys from that. But in that case, like that's something where it's like, yeah, it's okay to go spend that kind of money. Like if you're really looking to spend that kind of money, go ahead, because the 2080 Ti is significant. The real question is the 2080 versus the 1080 Ti. If you're in that price bracket, what should you choose? It's a really hard decision, because if DLSS is only meh and RTX never takes off, like ray tracing doesn't take off for, say, another 2 years, at that point, you're better off going with the 1080 Ti. You get the same and really realistically average, if you're not overclocking, better performance than the 2080, and you're saving a little bit of money, so you might as well go for that. 2080, you're paying a special technology fee,
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to add about RTX? Really, I mean, it's just the performance is probably right smack in the middle of everybody's predictions, which is exactly what it usually is. Half the people go, no, it's going to suck, and the other half go, it's going to be like 80%, bro. And I had somebody telling me that. I'm like, no. It's not going to be an 80% improvement. I'm sorry. Now, and again, I do want to stand back and say, comparing the 2080 Founders Edition or 2080 Ti Founders Edition to the previous Gen Founders Edition cards is not the best comparison. And I also want to emphasize that I really think the 2080 Ti needed to be benchmarked against the Titan XP because they're in the same price bracket. Not necessarily because they're the same category of card, but same price bracket, and realistically, best of Pascal versus best of Turing is kind of what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
So I would have liked to see a little bit more of that, but again, just take all the Founders Edition, Founders Edition cards with a grain of salt, because the old Founders Edition coolers are not great in terms of actual cooling performance. So
my biggest thing with all of this, I mean, it's not exciting, but like whatever. I see a lot of people online getting like really mad about this, and I'm just like, why are you stressing yourself out about this?
It's not worth it, first off. Second off,
if the card's not good, it's not good.
Don't buy it. Yeah. Like, that is one thing where it's like people... I mean, I understand some people are just really wanting more graphics power, right? And that's what they want, more innovation on that front. But it's like, it'll happen.
Yeah.
Just be patient. And what it comes down to is people complaining again, and just, like you said, just don't buy it. Vote with your wallet. Oh, sorry, you think they suck? Don't buy them. Duh.
Yeah.
And okay.
Now, I fully expect that if VR would have taken off more, we would have seen more of a push
because of the virtual link
graphics.
Connector. Yeah.
Well, no, more of
or
a
just
push
graphics
for
in
performance.
general. Oh,
because you not just are running at very high resolutions and future VR headsets are expected to be 4K plus, which there's an Oculus event tomorrow, but I don't know what that's about.
That'll be interesting. We'll cover that next week if there's anything cool.
So, but because they're expected to be 4K plus, and because they have to be run at very high refresh rates, I mean, realistically, you don't have even the 2080 Ti is barely capable of 4K.
4K 60, and realistically, like for VR, you want 4K 90 or 4K 120, yeah. And so that's where SLI comes into play again, which some rumors are going around and some stuff saying that it looks like NVIDIA might be getting kind of serious about SLI again. Now, the big hope is that trickles down to the 10 series, 9 series, etc., which a lot of times it's not an NVIDIA thing, it's NVIDIA working with the devs, and the devs put SLI support in, which means it will trickle down. The hope is NVIDIA doesn't attempt to lock it out so that the newer SLI optimizations don't work for the old cards. That's going to make a lot of people mad, including myself. But realistically, because SLI is getting more popular, if we can get frame time consistency good, because that can bother you in VR a lot.
Yeah.
If you get frame time consistency good and performance good.
The thing with virtual reality and dual graphics card setups is that they don't necessarily run in standard SLI.
Right. So you can use one card for each eye.
Yes.
Right, which is a really good rendering technique.
Yeah.
But of course, in that sense, you still have to have that. That card still has to be really powerful.
Yeah.
Right, like running the two cards together in SLI, say you had a 4K display, so we're cutting that in half. I'm not going to do the math, but point is, obviously, one card is rendering not 4K. It's rendering less than 4K for that one eye. But, of course, the two cards put together in SLI will still outperform that because you're rendering the same scene twice rather than rendering the two GPUs on one scene.
Yeah.
So, if you can hit, though, that, 90-ish frames per second or 100 and something frames per second, then that's pretty valuable.
Yeah. So my takeaway from all of this now is if you want to see better graphics card improvements, buy more VR headsets.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And actually play the games.
That's the thing. I'm just not interested.
But you're also lame.
I'm not just... Okay, I've tried a lot of VR. I've tried your VR stuff. I've tried demos in places. I've tried yours pretty extensively.
You tried my PlayStation VR, though.
Okay, I haven't...
You need to try my Rift.
I haven't used your Rift extensively, but I have used Rifts in other places.
I know, but you need to try the right games.
Okay.
The demo games are generally garbage.
Yeah. I'm just not that... It's just nothing that excites me that much, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, then you haven't played a game that really immersed you, I feel like.
Maybe.
Because for me, it was initially the demos that I tried, it was oh, this is cool. And then I got to the point with one where I really felt immersed. And that was what made me...
That's what different. Yeah. I don't know. I think, your PSVR didn't bother me. So I don't think... I'm really sensitive to refresh rate, frame time consistency, stuff like that. Funny because I'm an SLI user. But anyway, I don't know. It's just never been something that I was I was really hyped about it before it came out, and then I just stopped caring a year later. And I'm talking way back, in high school, when Oculus was first becoming a thing. I was excited they finally figured it out. It's really simple, blah, blah, blah. But what it comes down to is, I don't know, there's something I enjoy about just sitting down, keyboard and mouse, big monitor, playing games. You know what I mean? And I like the idea of some games. Some games are better.
You can have that in VR with a bigger monitor.
Okay, that is true, but you would need some seriously high-res VR at that point.
Yeah.
It's my 4K monitor on my 1080p VR screen. Whoops. Yeah. But,
8K, they have 8K VR headsets.
Then, and then you can do, you could do that. I guess...
4 2080s with two NV-linked 2080s, 2 sets of NV-linked 2080s.
One for each eye? One set for each eye?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. VR, it's a cool technology. I think it's interesting, and I think there are certainly some games that could benefit from it. I also think that there's some games that would be horrible.
Oh, definitely.
I'm sorry, I don't want to play World of Warcraft in VR. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just that kind of game's not for that.
Yeah.
And so maybe what a lot of that comes down to is the types of games I like to play maybe make more sense on a monitor. I play a lot of MMOs and other stuff like that, right? I would even argue Destiny probably wouldn't be that great on VR.
There's some really good VR shooters now.
There are, but...
Especially when you're using PlayStation's aim controller.
Yes, that does help.
It's so good. There's a new, Call of Duty, actual, multiplayer shooter.
Uh-huh. Okay. That's interesting.